One of the things I've loved about this Great British Car Share series is that we've got...
Is it because you're doing it with me?
Yes, that's the other thing I love. I was going to say that. The other thing that I love about this series is that we've got behind the wheel of cars that both you and I would not have picked to drive, and cars that actually, in some cases, I've not really had a feeling for before we've done it.
Yeah, definitely.
And that's one of them, right there. The Maestro is a car that was on the driveway surrounding our house when I was a kid, and I just never got them.
I have to disagree. I would, of course, pick this.
You would?
Every day of the week. Of course I would.
So I sold rally cars to you in the last series. You've got to sell this to me in this one, because although we talk about this being an important car, and it was actually a bit of a disaster at the time, both technically and in terms of the business aspect of British Leyland. So the Maestro is a car that has one heck of a backstory, and I do like that, and I've enjoyed reading up on it in advance of doing this, but it's a car that you're going to have to work pretty hard on me to understand and have a feeling for, Sarah.
I don't think I'm going to need to.
Why is that?
Well, I'll tell you why. Because, for one, we've had to choose one to drive. And you've already made it his choice again. And of course, we're not going to be driving the Austin Maestro.
No, or the Maestro as it became when Austin went bust in 1987. No.
Of course, he's had to upgrade because that's what Paul does.
What colour are the seatbelts?
Hang on. Would they be red?
Yeah, they're red. Yeah, we've got an MG Maestro.
See, there we go. I don't need to talk you into it. You're already excited.
Because it's got red seatbelts, but it's this one that I need to understand. It's the Austin part of the Maestro.
But that was the birth of it. You wouldn't be sat in the red seat-belted version if it wasn't for this version.
I know this, but I'm happy to skip a level and use the cheat code and go straight to the MG. But we're going to tell you the story of the Austin Maestro, but we're going to do it wearing red seatbelts. Do you want to drive the MG?
To match his eyes.
Yeah. Yeah, I know.
You have noticed?
Yes. It should have red seatbelts.
Yeah, but it hasn't.
I know, and that's ruined it for me.
I didn't want to ruin it.
I hope there's something else to like about the MG Maestro, because the red seatbelts were it for me.
We've got a red fire extinguisher, so will that make up for it?
We've got some red. Why hasn't it got red seatbelts?
We've got a bit of red piping.
The whole point of an MG Maestro, like the Montego hasn't got them either, has it? Look. So the Metro is the only car we're driving today with red seatbelts.
Okay, I'm sorry. Not sorry. Can I go now? Are you sure?
Yeah. Doesn't match my outfit.
Did you dress?
I genuinely thought they had red seatbelts.
Did you dress to match the red seatbelt?
Well, let's just say I didn't wear red just in case it clashed. I didn't overthink it. I mean, you saw I was excited about red seatbelts. That's the whole point.
To be honest, you're a little bit too excited about red seatbelts for my kind of liking.
Well,
what's that rattle?
Well, what it is they made a rattly parcel shelf to detract from the rattly dashboards, because this is actually a later one, so it's got the Montego dash, but the early MG Maestros and Austin Maestros for that matter had such rattly dashboards because they'd rushed them together and they'd overspec certain elements like the electronic dashboard, which doesn't seem to be talking to us, by the way.
It doesn't, does it?
No.
Well, I think that they didn't really, did they?
No.
Not one necessary anyway.
No, and
they only spoke to you when it really wasn't necessary.
That's it. And then they bolted this thing together, and the dashboard didn't work that well because it just squeaked and rubbed and there was loads of vibration. So the rattly parcel shelf is basically a distraction, so it works. Their heart was in the right place. For example, getting a New Zealand actress, Nicolette Mackenzie, to voice the electronic dashboard when the whole point of these MGs was buying British, and it was this building on patriotism. And in fact, when they were quizzed on it, which they were, they drew on the fact that New Zealand was part of the Commonwealth. And it's like, guys, you're not really getting this from the PR angle.
No.
I read a story about, I think it was an auto car journalist at the launch who, once he'd rolled the car, heard the electronic dash for the first time and told him that it had low oil pressure when it was upside down. So,
But it would have, wouldn't it?
well, you know,
It wasn't wrong.
No. So this is the later one. So it's got the better engine. It's basically got the O series out of the Montego, which was the better engine. It was proper electronic fuel injection, and it had more power. It actually was faster than its contemporaries, faster than the XR3i and the Astra GTE. The journalists that first saw it praised the design.
Yeah.
Because it was very normal, but this was very unapologetically normal.
Yes.
British Leyland at that point were completely risk averse. Harris Mann had done some designs of these cars years ago in the 70s, and they looked more like Chevettes. They looked like sort of weird versions of the Princess, and they actually looked pretty cool. And then, you know, the in-house team decided, we're not having that. We're not having that. So despite these really quite out there and quirky Harris Mann designs, which you and I would both have absolutely loved.
Oh, and still
do. David Back, the in-house head of design at British Leyland, was like, no, we're doing this in-house. There was a quote from the boardroom at BL in the early 80s, and they said, we want our Golf.
Yes.
And that's what they want. And they did use VW transmission as well. And some of the early running gear for these cars was tested in a Volkswagen Jetta. So they really did just want a Golf.
For me, it kind of means something from my youth. I grew up when all this was going on, and it was difficult times then, and people kind of forget that.
Yeah.
The 80s was really hard. It was a tough time.
But it was meant to be so much better after the disappointing end to the 70s. It was this, let's get Britain back on track. But then the politics ruined the early part of the Maestro, because the government were flitting around whether they'd put money in, whether they wouldn't. And then there was that famous picture of one of the Maestros, the Austin Maestros, parked outside 10 Downing Street with Mr. and Mrs. Thatcher looking at it. And of course, she said she hoped lots of people would buy it, because the government had decided that after a successful 1983, when it was something like the 6th best-selling car in Britain, that the government would put money in it. They would back it because it was a winning horse. And so she was then getting behind it, and the politics were playing ball with BL. But then it all went wrong again, because arguably the worst decision that was made for BL in that period was not selling to Ford in 1983. General Motors wanted to buy the vans and maybe, was it Land Rover maybe, and Ford wanted to buy Austin and British Leyland, and we said no, because that wasn't very British. Ford was an American company. Why on earth would we sell to Ford when they're so successful and have all this money to pile into cars to develop properly?
Why would you do that?
What's it like to drive?
It's not very nice.
Not as inspiring as I thought.
I'm not.
If it had red seatbelts.
It's not as nice as I thought it was going to be. I've always liked the Maestro, and maybe it hasn't lived up to my expectations, this one. I do like it still.
Just a little less.
Just a little less. But look at that dash. I mean,
Is there a way of making it talk to you?
There's just stuff everywhere, isn't there?
Where's the button to make it talk? Did the later ones even talk, or had they binned it by that point?
They probably binned it by that point. I don't know.
Are there any buttons down there?
I'm quite happy to do the talking for you. No.
I'd like to hear Nicolette Mackenzie.
There's a little compartment to put my coins.
Does it not talk anymore? Maybe the Montego will talk.
It's so funny how we don't talk anymore.
I really want to join in, but I don't know the song. Is it an 80s song or a 70s song?
Just get in the driver's seat.
That's a genuine question.
Just get out.
Who sang the song?
Just get out.
Well, the 4 series in, we're like an old married couple.
The youth of today are so very rude.
She does this thing where as soon as I get out of the car, she talks, and I find it in the edit, and I find all these things she said about me. And I Bet she just said something then, didn't she? She always does that. Oh no. Oh, no. After the Chevette proved us wrong on... Look, this isn't me.
I think what I was too eager to drive, and I think I didn't get the driving position correct for myself. So
you can't be too eager to drive, because if you're too eager to drive, the seatbelt won't go on.
I'm just going to sort myself out so that I can just enjoy the experience.
I want to find something to like about this, because I purposefully got the MG version. And if you'll allow me to talk about rally cars one last time,
You must.
they did the MG Maestro Challenge, and all the seats and the trim and the roll cage was just put around the seats. And I know that was a thing with production rallying in the 80s and 90s, but these were literally road cars with a roll cage and some racing seats in. And they did an MG Maestro Challenge. It was really popular. And some of those cars have been mothballed. And I thought we'd lost them all. And recently I put a post on social media, and it turns out quite a few people have still got their old MG Maestro Challenge cars. See, I got the MG version because I really have never taken to the standard Austin Maestro. The look of it, I don't know, it reminds me of those depressing, grey, murky Sunday afternoons when it was school the next day and the neighbour was washing their beige. Why were they always beige or that weird blue colour?
Because
Austin Maestro on the driveway. And I always remember thinking, why would you pick that car? Because it looks so ordinary. It blends into the sky. No?
Just tell me again what car you own and what colour it is. How dare you?
But it's quirky.
It's a brown.
This isn't quirky.
It's not even brown, is it? I mean, what colour is your clan?
We can't say it. It's a kids show. It's clan brown for want of a technical description.
It's a nappy blue brown.
This is... Given this is with the later MGs where they did sort it and they've got the proper engine. And they are, on paper at least, better.
Yes, it's not though, is it?
No, and what has surprised me the most actually is how much movement there is in the body, because this was one of British Leyland's things, apart from building everything wrong and being over ambitious, was to design the body completely on computer. So there's some wonderful old archive shots of the design team sat with a computer screen in front of them. It looks like they're playing Tetris or something, but they're designing the body of the Maestro, and it was, as a result, because it was completely designed mathematically and by a computer, it was supposed to be really quite rigid.
You can see all that computery element in the dash, can't you?
Yeah.
The graphics.
It goes quite well.
It goes lovely.
I like the noise it makes.
I just don't think it handles great.
No.
Do you?
No, it doesn't.
No.
No.
A little bit disappointed.
Imagine if I'd given you the Austin.
You put your foot down. It's got some guts.
Yeah.
But the performance from the cockpit.
I still want the talking dash to happen.
Right, I don't know if it's got a talking dash. Let me look for some buttons. I can't look for buttons when you're doing that. Hang on a minute.
I'm imagining it as a challenge car.
We've got
I've got a place for coins here.
We have got electric windows though.
What's this?
That is just
I've found it,
isn't it?
There's a wheel.
Well, that'll be for the headlights,
Oh yeah.
won't it?
Possibly.
Yeah, it'll be to do your beam up and down.
There'll be a load of people now commenting under this saying they didn't put it in that one.
The wheel
they
isn't
didn't
for
put it in that one.
Stupid.
They didn't put the talking lady in the later MG Maestro.
Well, that's fine. Do you want me to? Your
I
oil
want a
pressure is low.
New Zealand accent.
What's a New Zealand accent?
It's like Australian, but a bit softer. Good day, mate.
Good day, mate.
No, that's Australian. Now we're offending people from Australia and New Zealand.
Yeah. We're not completely convinced, are we?
It's missing two crucial ingredients that I thought would be here. Nicolette Mackenzie talking to me when the oil pressure's low and when I haven't put my seatbelt on.
Yeah.
And red seatbelts.
You can see what the British public saw at that time, can't you? Their expectations were much higher, and it just didn't quite reach it, did it?
Compare this to the Peugeot 205 GTI, the Fiesta XR2,
Yeah.
Escort XR3i. I think it's somewhere in between the two, the comparison falls. But I've driven both, I've owned and I've competed in both of those cars, and they're much stiffer, even out of the box. They're stiffer, more taut, you can use the power more, but they don't feel quite as British as this. And there's something quite endearing about what this is. So the Austin Maestro was a car that had ambitions beyond its years, beyond its budget, and beyond perhaps the ambitions of the people sat around those big mahogany brown boardrooms that we see so many pictures of from the British Leyland story. But as a young man who has ambitions far beyond his years or budget or anything else, I think you've just about convinced me that, I'm putting the Maestro in the good box.
Yay!
But I want my red seatbelts back.
Oh, flipping heck. You're like a dog with a bone.
Well, it's the wrong colour bone. Other than that, yes.